Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
A Time for Truth show is sponsored by the Office of Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Fialkoff was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for Truth show. It's a pleasure to have you back again. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff. And tonight, we're actually coming to you from Washington, D.C., where our forefathers, fought the Potomac River for freedom for this great country, America. It's like a symbol, and such an important symbol because, in the world, sometimes things are lost and, it starts getting a little bit sad because you can't express those things that are really so simple, yet make us so happy. Like going out and playing in your neighborhood. It seems like it's from some foregone, long ago era. Yet it's so funny that the Surgeon General now, Surgeon General of the America, of the U.S., came out with an advisory. It's amazing that he had to come out with this advisory, because you would think that we would be doing it out of common sense and we wouldn't be fighting about it. But he had to, and he had to prove it scientifically, which is very interesting because, a lot of times people would say, well, that's your opinion, or that's the way your philosophy of life, or, you're a Hindu, or you're Jewish, or you're Catholic, or, and, someone would tell you it's because of, your religious belief. But it's very interesting because we're here, and the reason I'm down in D.C. doing this show for you is because I came down for something that I think is very important personally, it's my opinion, the International Religious Freedom Summit. And so that's why I started the show this way, because, it's very interesting that we used to have very common sense principles that we would follow. And it seems like the world was a little calmer, a little less violence, a little less drugged. And it seemed like it was a little bit happier. And over the years, it seems like those things that were normal somehow went out of touch, or went out of being real, or, went out of vogue, or, wasn't what was on the latest ad, or in Facebook, or on TikTok, or wherever. But here we are, and now the Surgeon General has proven scientifically that, hey, wow, we're really human beings, and we do need to communicate with each other, not on a cell phone, but live. He actually put out an advisory on that also, that it's not the same, which is very interesting, because you think, well, I'm talking to him, right? Okay, that's what you mean, Dr. Ben? But no, he didn't say, on a cell phone, that there's actually something, because we're human beings, as Webster's Dictionary states, that there's something that occurs when we're with each other in the same room. And, you could feel it. Sometimes you walk in a room and it doesn't feel quite right, and you're uncomfortable, and we call that stress. And the Surgeon General basically came out with this advisory that you can get online, and you should really look at it, where he said that basically we're suffering in our country from what he called an epidemic of loneliness, that's being not interacting with each other, and isolation, where we're kind of alone, I guess, playing our video game or doing something maybe online and not feeling very happy and thinking maybe there's something wrong with us, when what he's saying is that the solution and the obligation we have is to interact with each other, which is very, very interesting. And so here I was down at this summit here in DC and met some very interesting people. And some of them are from this very beautiful building. And there's all different religions in the Religious Freedom Summit from all over the world. And so I met, some from this very National Affairs Office of Scientology, very beautiful building that's unbelievable. And we're very lucky to be here with its director. She's sitting right next to me, Beth Akiyama. And we want to welcome her to a Time for Truth show.
Thank you.
Yes. Well, thank you for letting us, in this gorgeous building.
Well, it's my pleasure to have you here. And I really enjoy your company. And thank you very much for inviting me on your show.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And, it's amazing because when we walked in, the feeling, the ambiance, I love wood. And tell us, first of all, a little bit about the building and the architecture, because it's like unbelievable.
Well, this is an amazing building, and anyone who's in Washington, D.C., please come and stop by and see us in DuPont Circle. It was built in 1890, and it was a single-family home of a very wealthy family, but they really loved to have beautiful things and to have beautiful woodwork, and you feel that love in the whole house, and it's just beautifully designed. And now it's got a great life as our public affairs office, and so we hold events here, and we have meetings, and we have organizations come here, and we work on many different things to solve situations in society and get together with other groups so we can work together to handle these situations.
Beautiful. Wow. Yeah. And so, and as you were saying about the building, and the building is like a national, it's like a historical or some kind of landmark, right?
It's on the National Register of Historic Places.
Wow.
And that's because it has a very unique style and because it's very well preserved. And so when the Church of Scientology purchased it, was back in 1994.
Okay.
We did a major renovation of it at that time. And it really brought back many of the original features to their beauty. And so we were really proud of that and very happy. And we just love this building. So we've moved our church to a larger building, but we were able to keep this for public affairs and public activities.
Well,
so we're very lucky. We're the luckiest people in Washington.
Well, I think you're a very smart lady because you managed to stay here in this gorgeous, it feels, and there's so much history you can feel. You go into certain places, and you feel the history, the purpose, and the warmth, and I really congratulate you for the building embodies and exudes that that warmth, that uniting feeling. I mean, I feel it being in here. I don't know if I want to leave after the show.
Well, I never get tired of coming here to work. I can say that, and it helps us to bring around the message, because some of the things we have to look at and confront in the world that's going on, drugs or crime or religious intolerance, are very heavy. And sometimes they say it's hard to think big if you're in a small, cluttered, unpleasant space. But when you can come in a beautiful place like this and you can sit down to think of the solutions to things, it's a lot more inspiring, and it's a lot easier to be able to look at these very hard issues and come up with some solutions that you can work together on from all of our different angles. Different people have different things they can bring to the party and things they can bring to the handling of these different situations.
No, absolutely. And I was over there speaking to different groups and from all over the world. It was very interesting getting their viewpoint on what's going on and whatever. And so I know one of the things that I wanted to ask you, so the viewers would know, is so what is the derivation of the word Scientology? Well,
it comes from Scio, meaning knowledge, so the Scio part in the beginning of the word, and ology, meaning the study of. So basically, it means learning or knowing how to know. So it's a study of knowledge, a study of knowing how to know. It helps a person be able to solve problems. Rather than giving everyone all the answers to problems, it actually helps a person understand how to find the answers themselves, and how to discern what is true and what is not true. And some of these things are not black and white. Something can it can be more true for one person than another. Like blue is someone's favorite color, but that may not be another person's favorite color. But it could be that it's more right and more wrong. And to be able to understand these kind of issues that are more complex than just a quick yes or no, right or wrong. Sometimes you have the lesser of two evils. Sometimes you have just complicated situations. Scientology helps a person understand that, and from the person's own perspective, so that they can use that to have the life they want to have, not a life somebody else wants them to have.
Well, you know what? I think it's so important because I know so many people complain, even certain professions or in jobs that they have, or even the relationships, they just don't feel like they can be themselves, or they're told what to do all the time. And, I know for myself it's very frustrating if I get an environment where like I'm always being told what to do. So I think that's refreshing that it's actually that he developed that so that you could get information and then, okay, now you take it.
Right.
Wow.
And at a time like this, there's a lot of information available to people. And so to be able to understand what's the best thing for you, to understand what you want to do with your life, and how to understand your role in the situation. And of course, it is a subject about people as spiritual beings. So it has that aspect of what's true or what isn't, that isn't necessarily something that is scientifically provable or not provable. It's a point that someone may have to determine for themselves. What do they believe? What is real for them? So we also have people of all different faiths that use Scientology or are members of the Church of Scientology that are also a member of another religion, because we don't exclude anybody from.
So it's not like to get in you have to like give up what you believe already.
That's right.
You just apply it to what you believe and make it better, make it your own.
Yeah. Okay. And people sometimes find they understand their own religion better because they can make the decisions and they can look at it and use what they learn in Scientology to help them understand themselves better and other people better, and then be able to understand their own faith.
Yeah, that makes That makes a lot of sense, because I know there was someone that I encountered the other day, and I just said something really simple, and I don't know why, but the person like went off on me a little bit, and at the end of it, I didn't really understand what had happened, but I was talking to my wife. And I said, what do you think happened? And they go, well, maybe the person really was uncomfortable, that they didn't even really know why they were doing something. They were just told to do it a long time ago.
Yeah.
And then, was uncomfortable with you, and then you didn't even realize it. And so, I think it's a nice thing to be able to have something so that you know why you're doing what you're doing, and you can evaluate it. Because sometimes, again, with me, I've had to change things that I thought, especially as a surgeon, right, that I was taught by certain doctors, and I go, oh, and I saw with my own experience that I had to change them, what I did. And so it's good to have something that's like a compass.
Yeah.
So it's like a compass then.
Yeah. And it helps a person to find which direction they want to go in. And they can, but it's a tool. They're tools that people can use in Scientology. And those tools help the person to understand life better, to understand themselves and where their place is in the world, and to be able to be more comfortable with that, and to be able to understand it better for themselves.
Very nice. And he also, aside from Scientology, he also developed Dianetics, right?
Right.
So what does Dianetics mean?
So dia means through, and then netics is a Greek word that means the mind. So it's through the mind. Or basically what the mind is doing to the body. There's a lot, you mentioned stress earlier.
Right.
There's a different total reaction people have when they have a lot of stress. The body reacts, and you might have stress illnesses like ulcers and things like that, and other situations that come up from that. It's what the mind is doing to the body, and even can create psychosomatic illnesses that they're sort of in the head, but they really they're caused by what the mind is doing to the body. It's a real thing. but it has a source that you want to be able to get at. What is the stress that you can relieve that stress? The ulcer can heal, if you can relieve the stress that's causing you to continue to have it. So things like that can be dealt with Dianetics, and also fears, irrational feelings, or grief that doesn't go away. If you lose somebody, can take a toll for so many years, and even beyond where you feel you really want to be able to get past it so you can carry on and make your life anew. So Dianetics helps tremendously with the things with grief and with losses in life, and wanting to unleash your own potential.
Yeah, amazing, because I think that Hubbard, I was looking, and it was he wrote this like in the 50s or 1950, and it's amazing that he had the foresight into that, because here we are now in 2020. It was 2023 when the Surgeon General came out with his advisory, actually basically corroborating what was in that book, because that's what he's saying is that scientifically now the Surgeon General found that our lack of interaction, which causes stress, or maybe the wrong interaction, which causes stress, and that he wrote the book on it. That's very interesting. So tell us a little bit, because you work, in this beautiful building. Tell us a little bit about Ron Hubbard. It's amazing that he did these two works. So tell us a little bit about him.
Yeah, so Ron Hubbard actually was in Washington, D.C. quite
Okay.
a bit as a young man. He went to school here. He went to George Washington University and learned about engineering. And he applied that philosophy, the engineering sort of scientific viewpoint, when he was looking at philosophy and looking at mankind and trying to understand better what made man tick, just looking at it very objectively, not necessarily studying a lot of different philosophers and then determining something from them, but looking objectively at, why are people irrational? Of course, that was after he was in World War II. And that, of course, was so much violence and death and destruction of World War II. And so after that, he really decided he needed to move forward with Dianetics and really understand what made people behave the way they do, and sometimes behave irrationally, and be able to help people to get over that and to help people understand it. If you can understand your fellow man, you can be a lot more patient. You can understand what's going on better and do the correct thing. Instead of a fight escalating, you may be able to de-escalate a lot better if you understand why would a person be so angry. And then you can deal with it in a better way.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. It's like, sometimes I say, we have these wars going on, in Ukraine, in Israel, and so much violence that we've had in our country.
Yeah.
And, to have something that would solve it, and to have something that, works, it makes so much sense, because it just, when you lose someone, I always say this, because we lost 113,000 Americans in 2023 to drugs. And I run a drug education program to try and help on that. But when I speak to people, one of the things I always get from them is, Dr. Fialkoff, my friend lost their daughter. And there was another one who lost his son. And actually, I was at a car show doing a drug-free world event at the car show. We do it at different events, different places, and different types of like music or sports or venues. And the person who came was a friend of mine who was a dentist, and Dan said to me, Ben, I want you to know that my neighbor lost his son, and he was 21. And he wants us to continue doing this work with educating people, because he said, his son, he's never going to know what to do. He feels horrible that what happened. And he wants you to know that he's happy that what you're doing, but it was just too much for him to come. He couldn't come.
Yeah.
And, that really hit me, because I realized it's not a number. It's a human being.
Yeah.
And so to me, that he developed this is so valid. And, I can understand it. So, I wanted to ask you a question. So when you have this summit going on not too far away from here. Very interesting, very close by.
Yeah.
I saw some of your members were there. So tell us a little bit about how you want to help within that and collaborate.
Well, it's like when you talk about Ukraine, there's all these wars that go on in different parts of the world, and many times there are issues that happen for different religions in different parts of the world. They say that, you know, every religion is a minority somewhere else in the world.
That's right.
So every religion runs into issues in different parts of the world, and we usually the International Religious Freedom community is most concerned about very difficult situations where people from different religions are being killed, they're being persecuted, they're being jailed, they're being forced to give up their faith in whatever way, whether it's one-on-one and preventing people from doing that, or deregistering a church, or deregistering a religion, a temple, or various different religions. And often wars are very much involved in the conflicts between religions. And so in the United States here, we started working together, with the religions working together, to say Scientologists, Jewish people, Muslim, Christian, everyone is helping to handle maybe a village of Christians were killed in some other country.
Right.
So we take that issue up and say we've got to have a public outcry about this. This can't be let to go, and something needs to be done about it, or the different areas. But then we find we're working together much better ourselves, because we're working together to resolve a situation and not talking about our faiths and the differences between them or this kind of thing, but working like that all faiths should have the right to have their religious freedom. And that way we just start there. And the differences between the religions are something for each individual to determine and work out.
Sure, it makes sense.
We can coexist. And in many countries where there are issues, in the past they did coexist. The different religions did coexist, and people of different faiths were not persecuted, but then later it changed. So maybe another element came in, but we can come in there to kind of say, okay, you know, how can we make this right again? How can we stop whatever element is trying to prevent some religions from expanding? Maybe they don't understand what they're really trying to do, or maybe some other issues have come up so that they can be looked at and can actually be resolved.
Makes total sense.
Yeah.
It's like guiding the ship out of the shoals and the shallow water back into the open water, so that, you know, we can all just sail a little more freely and more relaxed.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. And most people want things to go well and want to get along and want to be happy with each other. You know, it's like 80% of people want things to go well and work together and have it be happy. But sometimes the other percentage, even though it's smaller, can make it difficult. And so this is how we can work together to say, okay, let's try to get all the facts here and get it sorted out, and see who we know, who we can work together with, how we can work with the governments to get them. In many cases, the governments can help, because a lot of times it's not the government doing it. It may be some groups within the country that are doing it, or it could be, if it is the government. You know, we hope to have everybody understand and use the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which guarantees the right to religious freedom and freedom of expression, or freedom not to have a religion.
Right. But just have to have your own decision on your own, to decide for yourself and not to be told.
That's right.
I really think it's funny, because to me, I think if we applied this golden rule that we have probably in every religion, if we just did unto others as we want done to you, that you're so right, that it would work out so well. And, it's amazing that, it's great to have this, and it's amazing that we need to do it. But at the same token, I'm so happy that a group like yours exists, that this unbelievable building exists. And I want to say something before I ask you the last question. Martin Luther King said something I found very appropriate for tonight's show. He said that our lives begin to end the moment we start turning a blind eye to what really needs to be handled. And so what I wanted to ask you as we end the show is, what message would you like to send out to our viewers out there on what you feel that we should do something about in 2025?
Well, I think, we need to have a message where people are treating each other the way they would want others to treat them. And Ron Hubbard talks about this in his book, The Way to Happiness. And the thing about it, he says, try to treat others the way that you would want to be treated. And be tolerant of others, how others treat you, so that you can actually be resilient about that and be able to help them to achieve that same thing. Try to create effects on others that you would want the same kind of thing created for you. I think that this is a message in 2025 that we can all try to get along better, try to understand each other better, and try to work together to create the good things that we want to see in the community, and work hard to get those things done. Let's make this a year of really achieving the great things we want to see in our communities and in our countries and in other countries by working together with people who feel the same way, and achieving those things and making it a better world.
Absolutely. And from Washington, D.C., the capital of the country, the symbol of freedom, let's keep that light going into the future. Beth, thank you for being on the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And for those of you watching, we'll see you on the next episode of A Time for Truth show. Good night.
This show was sponsored by A Time for Truth Foundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got. But the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet